Bienvenidos, Ushamdi, and welcome to the Towson University Cisco Instructor Training Center. My name is Travis Bonfili, and I'm going to be your instructor throughout the spring 2019 semester. This is the CCNA Security version 2.0 course, and this is a week 1 recap on NetLab remote access. So at the end of class, we talked about how you would access NetLab and the things that you can do in NetLab. And I wanted to make sure that I captured that information in a video tutorial so that you can reference it at a later date if needed. So let's go ahead and dive in. I'm going to come to the main NetLab login page, and you can see that the URL is netlab.resigusa.org. You do not need the /home.cgi. It's going to fill that in once you have the main URL typed in. Everyone was given their username and a password. We successfully got everybody logged in today. And so now I'm going to log in as Cisco Dude. And this is simply my regular login or regular user login ID. So let me go ahead and click login. Let me get my password typed in here. And here we are. Now, it may come up, and let me say update password. It may come up and say that Java could not be detected on your computer. If you know that Java is installed, you would simply click continue. And I know that Java is installed. In fact, I just updated Java yesterday. So I'm going to go ahead and click continue. And now it's going to want to run a remote access test. Now, if from the PC or the Mac on which you're accessing NetLab, if you have already accessed NetLab, you can skip the test. However, if it's the first time, you would want to say start remote access test. Now, here's what's going to happen, and you have to pay close attention here. So when I click on start remote access test, it's going to act like it's doing the test. However, if you look down here in the bottom of my browser window, and I'm using Google Chrome, highly recommended you use Google Chrome, you can see that it wanted to download this JNLP Java file. So I'm going to keep that JNLP Java file. I'm going to show it in Finder, and I'm going to come up and I'm going to do a control click, and I'm going to say open. If you double click on it on a Mac, it's not going to open it immediately because it's been downloaded from the internet. But if you control click, it's going to allow you to access it. Now it's going to launch this little Java utility here, or this Java screen, I should say. I'm going to click run, and now it's going to run the remote test, and then everything passed, and so it brings me to the lab reservation screen. Now, remember, this is identical to your NetLab lab reservation screen. I've got my scheduler, I've got my file manager, I've got my profile update if I want to change my password, or if I wanted to change personal settings, I can do that, and they've got the chat beta. Okay, so the most important tab here for you as a learner is going to be the Scheduler tab. So I'm going to go ahead and say that, you know what, I want to schedule some time. I'm going to click on Scheduler. Now remember, it's going to show me the course that I'm in here, right? Instructor Trainer Qualifier CCNA Security 2019. You can see we've got 7 learners enrolled. You're going to have access to the NetLab equipment until October 11th of 2019. So a full year. Definitely beyond the finish date of the course. So definitely take advantage of the access that you've got here. So I'm going to go ahead and click right here on the security course name, and this is going to show me a list of all the activities that I can do as a part of my NetLab access. Now, remember, these are CCNA security labs for version 1.2, and they have an ASA firewall in here as well. And we're definitely going to need that. Now, remember, we're doing version 2.0. However, the labs in 1.2 are almost identical in a lot of senses to what you're doing in 2.0. So you don't have access to equipment. Maybe you don't have access to a lab. This is an amazing and very, very effective way to continue to work with real Cisco hardware. So I'm going to go for broke right here. I'm going to say that I'm ready to take Lab 10.8.1.1, the CCNA Security Comprehensive. And this is the sort of the final exam, hands-on, that you would take in a classroom setting, and you can practice it right here in NetLab as well. So all I would need to do is click on the little blue page. Remember, clicking on that blue page is going to launch the lab for me. And there it is. And this looks very similar to what we were looking at in class today. We had our ASA firewall. We had 3 routers that we were connecting up. Remember, the whole DTE, DCE thing is irrelevant when you see that for the serial links. Doesn't matter. You've got the 3 switches, and now you've got the 3 PCs. Now, I'll be sending Iris an email asking her to have, I believe his name is Brian, to take a look into the PC. So right now, you're going to be able to launch the PCs, and you can log into them, but they're not connected to the right switches. So there's no network connectivity to any of the PCs, and so we've got to get that sorted out. However, that said, you can still get onto the switches and the firewall and all the routers, and this is all pre-cabled for you, and you can practice until you can practice no more. And here's the setup, right? So it's got all the instructions that you're going to need. And you can see, I can download that. So let's say, I want to keep this beyond my access to NetLab. I would click on download, and let me just drop it into my downloads folder, right? So there we go. I could pull this up in, let's show it in Finder. I can pull it up in, what am I trying to say here? Adobe Reader, right? So I could pull it up in Acrobat Reader, but we'll just leave it right here for now. So if this is the lab I want to work on, I've downloaded the lab, I'm logged in, I'm ready to go. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm simply going to click right here on CCNA Security Comprehensive. And you can see this is where you're going to come in and make reservations. Now, we've got 3 pods, pod 1, pod 2, and pod 3. We don't have any reservations yet, which is going to be down here in the clear area. You can see the reservation I made today during class, and you can see that Zadu also made a reservation in class, and he was kind of following along with what I was doing. Now, if you want to start immediately, you see how it has the question mark. Whoops, sorry, I didn't want to do that. Let me bring this back up. I wanted to come down with the time a little bit. There we go. So you see the question mark here, right? You want to kind of pull down the mouse a little bit till it gives you the little hand right there. And that's going to start your lab right now. In other words, immediately. You're ready to go, and you can block off up to 4 hours of time. My recommendation is always load no configs. Start clean. It gives you much more opportunity to type the commands in and to have to work your way from scratch to your solution. So I'm just going to go ahead and say, okay, sure, we'll go till 5 o'clock. And again, I don't want to take up time in the reservation section because you guys might be looking to make reservations to work on things. So I'm simply going to click OK. And that's it. I'm done. Now, I could make another reservation, right? But I'm just going to make this one here and I'm done. So here's the follow-on screen where it's now going to tell me, hey, you've got a reservation from now, 3:47 in the afternoon, until 5 p.m. And I'm going to be on Multipurpose Academy pod with an ASA, pod number 2. So how do I fire the lab up? How do I start the lab? I've got the instructions. I need access to the equipment. So I'm simply going to click on Enter Lab. Now, this is going to go ahead and start the pod. It's powering the pod on. It's bringing up all of the connectivity that we're going to need. I'm going to get rid of the bottom bar there. So it's starting everything up. And this will take anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes for everything to be fully fired up and ready to go. So we're going to go ahead and let this finish. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and pause, and we'll bring this back online once it comes to initializing. And it gives us that screen with the image showing us that things are initializing. So let me go ahead and pause real briefly here. All right, so we're back, and you can see I really like this. So you can see right up here, it shows me my time remaining, right? And at about the 10-minute mark, you'll get a little pop-up that's going to tell you that your time is getting ready to expire. So we've got 59 minutes remaining here in Pod 2. You can see it's still initializing, but that's okay. Even if it's initializing, I can still pull some of these devices up. So what I would want to do is I would want to take a look at the lab that I had downloaded to see what the first step is going to be. But let me just go ahead and show you how to pull things up. Now remember, it's going to do that thing because it's Java-based. I'm going to pull the firewall up. So when I click on the ASA, you can see down here, It's asking you, do you want to keep this JNLP file? So you definitely want to keep it. So I'll click on keep, and then I'll say show in Finder. And you can kind of see, like, look, see, I've got this start remote access, and then it's just going to start dropping them in my downloads folder. So I'm simply going to control click. I'm going to say open. And this was what I was talking about today, where this is kind of a hassle. I'll say don't show this again and then run, because you're going to have to do this to get every device open up. You can see I can, stretch the screen. I can change the color, right? I can go to all kinds of different colors here just by clicking on the little color palette button, which is kind of cool. And so here we are on a Cisco ASA. So if I was to go from user exec to privilege exec with the enable command, remember there's no password initially, and I could say show run, right? And so that's how you would access the ASA. Let's say I wanted to access router number 2. I would click on router number 2. You can see we get this download down here, right? So I'm going to say I need to keep that. And then I'm going to say show that to me in Finder, so that I can then, and you can see it just starts stacking these JNLP files as it downloads them one at a time. Control click. I'll say open. We should not see, and there we did not see the Java window prompting us because I said don't show that again. And then here we are. You hit enter a few times, and now I'm on router. So we'll go from user exec to privilege exec. Let me say show version. Let's see what version of software we're running. So we've got 15.4.3 M6. So this is a great version, not the latest and greatest, but this is going to have and allow us to do everything that we would need to do, right? And so that's how you access NetLab. That's how you choose a lab. That's how you download the instructions for the lab. And here's how you open the windows up. So let me do this real quick. So let's pull up router 1. So we'll say keep. I'll say show in Finder. I'll come up here and say open, and it's going to kick it open here for me. So we'll say open, and there we go. And I believe that we have, it's actually not going to, there we go. That's what I'm looking for. I wanted to have it pull all 3 windows up at the same time. So this is router 1. This is router 2. And you can see, I should actually say down here, you can see the device is right down here, right? So that's router 2. So let's go into global config. Let's say hostname router 2. Something you'll probably want to do is you're going to want to say no IP domain lookup. This is a great command. And what that command does is if I type something from privilege exec and it's a typo, the router's not going to try to resolve it as if it was a domain name. And that's when it hangs up saying translating and sits there. So we're going to say that, and I'm going to go into linecon 0, and I'm going to say logging synchronous. That way, when I'm on the command line like I am right now, if log output comes up like it just did right there with that console message, it gives me the prompt back. It doesn't put my prompt in the middle of this output. So no IP domain lookup is a good one, and logging synchronous under the console port or console line is also a great command to have. So let's say write mem, and actually let me go jump right back into global config here. Say conf t, and on router 2 we're going to go into interface serial 000. I'm going to say IP address 10.10.10, and I'll just say .2, and we'll make it a /30 255.255.252, and we'll say no shut. So now let's come over to router 1, and we'll go into privilege exec, and then into global config, I'm going to say no IP domain lookup, and we're going to go into linecon 0, and I'm going to say logging synchronous, and then I'll exit out of here. We'll give it a host name, router 1, and then we're going to go ahead and say, actually, let's get back into global config, interface serial 000, IP address 10.10.10.1, and we'll make this a /30 so it matches 252, no shut. All right, I'll say write mem, save my config, and you can see the link has changed to up. Now, can I ping 10.10.10.2? Let's see if we've got connectivity here. And there is one of the pods that has a cable, and it might be pod 2. Where, yeah, and so it is pod 2. So, and it was fortuitous failure here that I pulled pod 2 up. So the serial connection between router 1 and router 2 and pod 2, that connection right there has an issue. So from here on out, try to use pods 1 and 3 And I'm going to put this in the email to Iris as well, that there's something up here. It's either the card that's in router 1 or the card that is in router 2, or it's something to do with the cable. So there's definitely an issue there with that connection right there, which is why we're do show IP interface brief. You can see that we are up from a layer 1 perspective, but we are down from a layer 2 perspective. So even if I was to say incap PPP and to come over here and say the same thing, go into global config and interface serial 0000000 and say incap PPP, even if I were to do that, that's not going to fix our problem here. So do show IP interface brief, and you can see it still shows up down. And it's always going to show up down here. And this actually will bounce repeatedly. So if I had connectivity, I could have gone ahead and used the ping command to check that. All right, so avoid pod 2 until we can get that cable or card taken care of there. Pods 1 and 3 work fantastically. Remember the PCs, those need to be sorted out. So you're not going to have any PCs. And in fact, let me launch a PC for you here to show you what you'll see. Remember, you say keep, PCs launch the exact same way. I say show in Finder. I control click. I say open. And here it comes. And it's going to ask me for that for the PC, it looks like. And there's your PC, right? So pretty cool. And this is kind of a throwback here. We're looking at Windows XP. So this is definitely old school. And you can see local area connection limited or no connectivity. You would click down here. My details, take a look and see what we've got. Okay, it's got an APIPA address. I can click close. If I click on the network icon, I would go to properties, TCP IP, and then I would go ahead and put my IP in. But remember, right now, the PCs aren't actually working like they're supposed to. When they do work, though, you can see we've got PuTTY. So you can SSH and check your connectivity. You got the command prompt. You've got everything that you would have. You've got Mozilla so that you can go to the GUI of the ASA if you're going to administer it that way. You've got Nmap, ZenMap GUI. So this is going to allow you to do some port scanning. And then we've got a TFTP server. All right, well, that is going to conclude our tutorial and sort of review of how to access NetLab to get in some additional and always beneficial hands-on experience. Although you're not cabling things up, you're still working with real routers, real switches, and shortly we'll have some PCs there you'll be able to work with. So that's it, and I am really looking forward to working with everyone. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. And that is it. That's all I've got. So have a great weekend and a great week, and I will see you in our Zoom session this coming, or not tomorrow, but the following Sunday at 6 p.m. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll talk with you guys soon.